I accidentally took my boyfriend's phone and saw a message from his ex. I didn't take the pill that night. A few short words, yet they sent chills all over my body. The night before last, I suddenly had acute gastroenteritis. He was working overtime at the company, and I called him more than a dozen times, but couldn't get through. Enduring the excruciating pain, at 3 a.m, I took a taxi to the hospital alone. It turns out he had his phone off and was missing all night, because he went to find his ex-girlfriend. 1. Today is the night before my wedding with Song Hwai. His ex, Chen Jio, insisted on coming with a group of old classmates to congratulate us. As I pushed open the door, I saw Chen Jio on tiptoe, kissing Song Hwai on the lips. Song Hwai did not push her away. Even when she was about to lose her balance, he reached out to support her waist. A very gentle gesture. Completely different from his indifference towards me these days. His old classmates around him were teasing, as if they were already accustomed to such scenes, skillful and natural. The sound was very harsh, like a hand choking my throat, making me almost suffocate, gasping for breath. Jusha. Someone called out when they saw me walk in. It was a very abrupt statement. Not only did it successfully separate the two, but it also made the group of people in the room turn to look at me in unison. Ah! Chen Jio exclaimed exaggeratedly. She hurriedly walked up to me, her face even flushed. We were just playing truth or dare, and Song Hwai and I lost. Don't get me wrong. I looked at her in disbelief. Just now, I had to leave for something, and on my way back, I suddenly received a WeChat friend request, with the note being Chen Jio. After I accepted it, she immediately sent a close-up photo of her and Song Hwai. Guess what he and I are doing right now? After retracting it in seconds, she casually sent another message, "Happy wedding." Now, she explains it so openly, as if she wasn't the one who sent me the provocative message. Instead, it seems that I am the one making a fuss and being unreasonable. 2. As if afraid I wouldn't believe her, Chen Jio suddenly grabbed my wrist and wanted to say something, but I forcefully shook her off. She stumbled back a few steps, and just so happened to fall into the arms of Song Hwai, who had reached out his hand. It was raining outside, and I slipped on the wet ground, bumping into the table beside me. My phone fell to the ground and slid several meters away. The sound was neither heavy nor light, but it instantly silenced the entire room. Someone picked up my phone and quietly placed it on the table. Only then did Song Hwai seem to finally react, hurriedly coming over to help me. I found it somewhat ridiculous. Forcing myself to stand up and avoiding his touch. Taking a deep breath, I stared at him and asked, "Song Hwai, if I say that she just texted me to provoke me, saying, 'Jusha, it was just a game.'" Song Hwai interrupted me. His tone was as calm as ever, and the impatience in his expression was unmistakable. I was stunned. The burning sensation in the ankle reaches the brain, gradually spreading to every nerve. It was only at this moment that I felt the delayed pain and embarrassment. I could no longer stay, so I picked up my phone and ran to the bathroom. 3. I turned on the faucet and washed my face haphazardly. The icy sensation spread throughout my body. Suddenly, my phone vibrated, showing a message from Chen Jio, but I hadn't saved her contact before. After a few seconds of daze, I realized that I had hurriedly taken Song Hwai's phone when I left. By the time I reacted, I had unconsciously opened the chat window between Song Hwai and Chen Jio. Chen Jio sent a message, "That night, I forgot to take the pill afterwards." A few short words, yet they sent chills all over my body. So, while I was busy with the wedding preparations, running around, they slept together. The light above my head shone on the phone screen, making it a bit hard to see, and it slowly reminded me of some things. After work the day before yesterday, I didn't have time to eat and went to the hotel to prepare for the wedding, working late into the night, and as a result, my gastroenteritis suddenly flared up. Song Hwai said he was working overtime at the company, and I called him more than a dozen times, but I couldn't get through. Enduring the excruciating pain, at 3 a.m, I took a taxi to the hospital alone. It turned out that he had turned off his phone and was unreachable. And he hadn't returned all night, because he went to find her. 4. My heart hurt as if it had been brutally torn apart, and I didn't know how I could continue to read on. I flipped to one of the chat records, and my finger froze. A week ago, Chen-jio sent him a picture of a ragdoll cat. Our son is getting cuter and cuter now hhh. He replied with a hum. Then, he changed the screensaver to the ragdoll cat they had raised before. My mind went blank, and I didn't even notice someone approaching me until my phone was forcefully taken away. Song Hui looked at me with a stern face, his voice becoming a bit colder. Did you intentionally take the wrong phone? I looked into those familiar yet unfamiliar eyes, and the tension that had been tightly wound finally snapped. What about you? Aren't you going to explain? You just kissed, and you said it was just a game. What about these chat records? And this screensaver? Which was originally a photo of us. Why did you change it to the picture she sent you? I trembled as I pointed at his phone, my voice nearly hoarse. Clearly, the facts were laid out before us, yet I still wanted to hear his explanation. But he said nothing, turned off the screen, and looked at me with a blank expression. He was always good at silence. 5. At first, Song Hui pursued me for a long time, and I officially agreed to him because of Gun Gun. My parents divorced when I was very young, and it was my grandmother who raised me. A few years ago, my grandmother passed away, leaving me Gun Gun, saying it would accompany me in her place. That night, I went out to walk the dog, and in a moment of distraction, Gun Gun got lost. I searched almost the entire park, and finally, exhausted, I collapsed on the ground, crying in despair while hugging my knees. In the end, it was Song Hui who helped me find Gun Gun. At that time, he was holding the puppy. Out of breath, but spoke to me very casually. Just now, while running, I saw Gun Gun being held by a man, walking very quickly. He must be a dog dealer. I felt both relieved and terrified, and tears kept falling down. Don't cry, Song Hui, who usually likes to keep clean, surprisingly didn't mind and sat down on the concrete ground next to me. He was silent for a while, then sighed softly, when you cry, I just don't know what to do. The moonlight shone on his profile, as he looked at me with gentle and sincere eyes. Gong Gong will always be by your side, and so will I. After that day, we were together. We dated for 3 years, and Song Hui treated me very well. We did everything that couples should do. Until 2 months ago, when I accepted Song Hui's proposal, his first love from college, Chen-jio, suddenly appeared. At first, I did have some worries. To put my mind at ease, whenever Chen-jio called or went to the company to find him, Song Hui would inform me. He was trying hard to show me through his actions that he had really moved on from her. But now, seeing them kiss and seeing him change his profile picture to one with Gong Gong, I finally realized that Song Hui had never forgotten her. I knew I shouldn't cry, but my tears fell uncontrollably, and in the end, I cried so hard that I couldn't catch my breath, trembling all over. Song Hui was silent for a long time, then suddenly said, You probably don't know, but seeing you cry like this, I feel nothing at all. The tone was very flat, calmly stating a fact that he no longer loved me. At that moment, my world collapsed. 6. I don't know how long it took, but I received a voice message from my best friend, saying she already knew what had just happened. Even through the screen, I could feel the deep guilt in her voice. After being stunned for several seconds, I understood. At that time, my best friend and I had gone hiking. And when we returned, we couldn't get a taxi, so she asked her brother to pick us up. My best friend comes from a blended family, and her brother had been living abroad. He had just returned to the country, so I had never met him. Unexpectedly, the call couldn't get through, and my best friend had no other options, so she called Song Hui, who happened to be nearby on a business trip. I met Song Hui in the same way. Perhaps this is why my best friend feels so guilty. Immediately after, my best friend sent another message. Don't move, we're coming to the hotel to pick you up. I didn't have time to think carefully about that word. We washed my face, stood up, and prepared to leave. Turning around, I found that Chen-jio had also come out at some point. She stood behind Song Hui, quietly watching me. And the pity in her eyes was obvious. There was also a hint of barely perceptible mockery and disdain. 7. I'm too familiar with that kind of gaze. In the past 2 months, countless times she had deliberately created encounters, looking at me with that subtle yet direct gaze. I couldn't understand at the time clearly. Song Hwai's attitude towards her was cold to the point of being almost inhumane, yet how could she be so certain that he was destined to be hers? Until a month ago, Song Hwai took me to meet his parents for the first time. When his mother served me food, she accidentally called out Chen Jio's name. She didn't even realize her slip of the tongue and warmly greeted me, "Jia, the fish is very fresh, eat more." My hands trembled so much that I couldn't hold the chopsticks. At that moment, the kind look in his mother's eyes strangely overlapped with the way Chen Jio looked at me. Back in the room, Song Hwai immediately hugged me from behind. His attitude very sincere. "My mom is getting old and has a poor memory," she just said that casually. "Can you forgive her?" I only asked him one question. "Chen Jio has come to you countless times. Have you ever wavered?" He was silent for a long time. Finally, slowly and firmly said in my ear, "Wife, you are the only one in my heart right now." The calmness and helplessness in his tone made it impossible for me to doubt any longer. But that entire night, we didn't say a word to each other. He even used work as an excuse to sleep in the study. 8. My thoughts returned to the present. I stared blankly at the two people in front of me. The pain of betrayal, like being torn apart, began to fester from what had just happened, and it rampantly spread through the details I had previously overlooked. Song Hwai is my first love, the only person I have wanted to spend my life with for the past 20 years. But I am not his. Not in either sense. He has always wanted only Chen Jio. As I passed by Song Hwai, I suppressed the sadness in my heart and tried to appear calm. The wedding tomorrow is cancelled. After we go back tonight, we will explain everything to our parents. Fortunately, we haven't registered our marriage, so they should understand. I left directly without waiting for his response. Once I exited the hotel, I realized the rain hadn't stopped. The hazy moisture lingered in the air, creating a misty atmosphere. The night deepened, and the coldness relentlessly enveloped me. I glanced at my phone, not knowing what I was hoping for, as there were no messages. A hand holding an umbrella shielded me from the gloomy sky, with long, fair fingers gripping the handle. I was momentarily stunned, thinking it was my arriving best friend, Xiao. Meeting those pitch-black eyes, the other Xiao was swallowed back down. Shen Jinyan. Perhaps it was because the umbrella handle was tilted towards me. Shen Jinyan's hair was a bit wet. He was looking down at me, responding lightly, "Xiao Xiao is in the car." I was slightly taken aback. Although Shen Jinyan is Xiao Xiao's brother, our interactions are not many at most. We are just acquaintances who nod at each other. I didn't expect him to come with Xiao Xiao to pick me up. Just as I was about to speak, I suddenly felt a cold gaze coming from behind me. I instinctively turned my head. Song Hwai was standing at the hotel entrance, looking at us with a blank expression. 9. I calmly withdrew my gaze and got into the car with Shen Jinyan. As soon as I sat down, I received a call from my mom. Xiao Song told me everything. What's the big deal? If you don't want to get married, then don't. Do you have to make me so angry to be satisfied? Suddenly, the sound of an engine starting came from the front. Shen Jinyan gripped the steering wheel, his thin face inexplicably appearing a bit cold in the dim light. My mom paused for a moment, as if suppressing her anger. "Well, talk about it when you get back to your dad's house." The call was abruptly hung up. "Your mom," Xiao Xiao held my icy hand, her expression complicated. "Forget it." After a moment of silence, I smiled calmly, I'm used to it. Ever since my parents each started new families, my mom had another son, and my dad had a daughter. I had long been accustomed to their indifference and neglect. On the way, I learned from my best friend that she had just had dinner with Shen Jinyan at a nearby restaurant, which is why she came over together. Then she seemed to casually add, "It was my brother who insisted on coming along." Returning to my dad's house, it was still early. My mom sat on the sofa with a stern face, while my dad sat across from her smoking. However, I didn't see my dad's current partner and daughter. They must have temporarily avoided us. Hearing me return, my mom let out a cold snort and spoke to my dad sarcastically. Because of a game, you're calling off the wedding, otherwise, it's your daughter, isn't it? My dad ignored her, extinguished his cigarette, and asked me, have you made up your mind? I nodded firmly, yes. I will take responsibility for all the consequences. I disagree. My mom finally couldn't contain her anger any longer, stood up abruptly, and started yelling at me. Friends and family invitations have all been sent out, and now you say you don't want to get married. If I had known you would embarrass me like this, I shouldn't have given birth to you in the first place. Even though I was somewhat prepared, hearing these words still pierced my heart deeply. Mom, it's not just a game. I also found chat records between him and that person on Song Hwai's phone. I looked at my mom, word by word. They slept together the night before last. My mom was stunned for a moment, a hint of surprise flashing in her eyes, but she quickly said firmly, impossible. Xiao Song is such a good kid. He just promised to help your brother with his job. He would never do something so outrageous. I looked at her in disbelief, my breath caught in my throat. My mom seemed to realize what she had said. Her lips moved a couple of times as if to explain, but no words came out. Enough, my dad suddenly raised his voice, a bit impatient. The child has already made up their mind. What are you pretending to be a good person for? My mom seems to have found someone to vent to, sneering. She was 5 when we divorced, and the court granted you custody. But what did you do? You didn't care at all. Just threw her to your mother in the countryside and turned around to remarry. Later, when her grandmother passed away, you had no choice but to bring her back from the countryside. Just because the dog left by her grandmother barked at your daughter a few times, you wanted to sell it, forcing her to move out. She pointed at the family photo hanging on the wall, adopting a posture of giving up completely. Do you dare to say that since your daughter was born, you've had any feelings for her as your daughter? My dad seemed to be hit by something, his eyes turning red with anger, and he didn't even deny it. What right do you have to say that? Aren't you just doting on your son now? They were still exposing each other's shortcomings, completely unaware that I had already returned to the guest room. I don't have my own room here, but because of the wedding, my dad specially prepared a guest room for me. In the silent room, only the sound of my breathing could be heard. The phone suddenly rang. Chen Jio, we went to sing karaoke, do you want to join? Then, she sent a picture of them at the KTV. In the photo, Chen Jio is holding a microphone, her lips slightly curved, gazing at Song Hwai, who is sitting on the sofa. The lighting on Song Hwai's side is a bit dim, making it hard to see his expression, but it seems to be one of deep affection and joy. The two are gazing at each other from afar, while the surrounding old classmates seem to have become mere background figures. A classic old song is playing on the screen. I still want to love you. No more blanks. No longer letting memories fill the future. I also want to have expectations for tomorrow. Rekindle love. I thought I would cry, but strangely, at this moment, I felt incredibly calm. Calmly blacklisting Chen Jio. Calmly calling each guest to inform them of the wedding cancellation. After notifying the last one, Song Hwai's call suddenly came in. The background on the other end of the call was somewhat noisy. Song Hwai was silent for a long time, his voice cold to the extreme. Are you serious? 10. I didn't want to say much to him, so I simply replied millimeter and hung up the phone. Just as I was about to turn off my phone, I received a WeChat message from Shinjinyan. Remember to apply medicine to the ankle wound. I was stunned for a long time. Just now, when I fell in the hotel, my ankle was scraped by the table, and the wound is not very shallow. I endured it all the way. Song Hwai didn't notice, and my parents didn't notice either. I didn't expect him to notice. This room is filled with a lot of clutter. I tried rummaging through the drawer and actually found the first aid kit. I don't know if it's because of Shinjijian's comforting words, but when I was treating the wound, I seemed particularly serious, even not hearing someone knock on the door. It was Song Hui. The cotton swab and ointment fell to the ground with a thud. My mom stood behind Song Hui, turning her head to avoid my incredulous gaze. Mom still doesn't believe that Xiao Song would do something to hurt you. Just in time, here you two should have a good talk. Soon the door was closed, leaving only me and Song Hui in the room. His gaze fell on my ankle, and his tone was a bit unnatural. Did you hurt it just now? His palm pressed against my cold hand, and his voice was very soft. I'm sorry, I didn't notice just now. The damp warmth made me stiffen instantly, and almost reflexively. I pulled my hand back forcefully. Get out. Perhaps my attitude was too cold. And Song Hui looked momentarily flustered, but he quickly calmed down. Jusha, marriage is not a game. Aren't you even going to give me a chance to explain? Explain. I looked at him and suddenly felt like laughing. What do you want to explain to me, Song Hui? Explain why you didn't push her away when Chen Jiao kissed you. Or explain why you didn't answer my call the night before and left me to find her. Jusha, I and her. When I most wanted to hear your explanation, you chose silence. I interrupted him. The belated apology and explanation are completely meaningless. Song Hui was clearly taken aback. Shisha, whether you believe it or not, I am not with her in the way you think. I looked at him in silence. Recently, there was a major mistake in a project at my company. I was in meetings almost all night the night before. I forgot my phone in the office. And it shut down due to a power outage. It wasn't intentional that I didn't answer your calls. I also didn't go looking for her at all. As for just now at the hotel, a classmate borrowed my phone once, and the screensaver might have been changed at that time. Later, we swapped phones by mistake, and I don't know what she sent you. He paused for a moment. When I saw it, it only showed that she had retracted a message. I was stunned. Chen Jiao indeed had similar actions. Because of the project issues, along with the trivial matters of the wedding, I haven't been in a good state these days, and my attitude towards you hasn't been good either. It was my fault. He tugged at his tie, a hint of regret showing in his eyes. When those people made a scene, my mind became even more chaotic, and somehow, I forgot to push her away. But when I heard his explanations, I only felt powerless. Shisha. It's really impossible between her and me. Song Hui tentatively placed his hand on the back of my hand again. It was quiet for about 2 seconds, and I pulled my hand away. Song Hui, just because you didn't really have a relationship with her doesn't mean it's not a betrayal of our feelings, and I will act as if nothing happened. Indifference and silence are equally a knife. The harm they cause me, you can casually brush off, but I cannot. You probably don't know. After clenching my palm and trying to adjust my breathing, I finally said with difficulty. How gentle you are when you face her. Song Hui was stunned. He probably forgot as well. Whether it was impulsive or heartfelt, he said it himself now that I'm crying, he feels nothing at all. It seemed like he wanted to say something more, but I coldly interrupted him. Since you don't plan to leave, then I'll go. After saying that, I opened the door and walked out directly. Behind me, I heard Song Hui's somewhat hoarse voice, don't go. 11. I didn't expect to see Shinjian in the living room downstairs. He was sitting on the sofa, casually playing with his phone, and there was a tube of ointment on the table in front of him. Noticing that I had come out, Shinjian said somewhat helplessly. Xiao Xiao was worried sick after she heard you were hurt, so she asked me to bring you the ointment. I was taken aback and couldn't help but smile. I wanted to explain that I had already applied the medicine, but suddenly I felt a gaze from beside me, half smiling, half serious. It turns out that Chen Jiao is also there. How did she find her way to my house? Chen Jiao slowly walked up to me, wearing a smile that revealed no emotion. Oh, you seem to be in a good mood. Have you reconciled with Song Hui? I smiled back and raised an eyebrow, responding with a hint. What do you think we would do after staying in the room for so long? Chen Jiao was taken aback for a moment, perhaps imagining something, and glared at me fiercely. I initially thought about returning her provocations, after being taunted so many times, but seeing her increasingly ugly expression suddenly made it feel uninteresting. Song Hui also came out. Why haven't you two left yet? This was clearly directed at Chen Jiao and Shen Jinyan. Shen Jinyan didn't say anything, but Chen Jiao clearly couldn't take it anymore. You called me over to clarify things with her parents in person, and now that you two are back together, you just turn your back on me. Song Hui didn't answer, as if he was acquiescing. Seeing his attitude towards Chen Jiao, I didn't understand what his actions meant. Chen Jiao finally couldn't hold it in anymore. Song Hui, you shouldn't treat me like this. She froze, her pride stripped away, her tone filled only with pallor and despair. Song Hui, do you really not want me anymore? Song Hui said nothing, gently placing his hand on my waist, half embracing me. Chen Jiao suddenly laughed, then calmly took out a piece of paper from her bag and handed it to me. It was a pregnancy test report. It clearly stated Chen Jiao's name, indicating that she was already 1 month pregnant. The night before last, we really didn't do anything. Chen Jiao stared at me intently, her smile growing deeper, but a month ago, there was a day when you two had a cold war, and he went out drinking. My brain exploded with a buzz, and I stiffly turned my head. Song Hui stared tightly at that piece of paper, his face instantly turning pale. 12. At that moment, it felt like water-soaked cotton was blocking my throat, then transforming into steel bars, slowly piercing in, making it hard to breathe. His reaction had already said it all. Sure. In Song Hui's eyes, a hint of red appeared. Looking at his face, which seemed eager to explain, but had no way to argue, I clearly sensed something inside me gradually dissipating. In the end, only nausea remained. Song Hui, no one is forcing you to forget her. You could very well remain loyal in your emotional world, but why do you have to provoke me? I drank a lot that night, he was still trying to explain. Interrupted coldly by me. Don't say it was just an accident, treating her as my ghost story, not even having the courage to admit it, only makes me look down on you. Song Hui's face turned pale, frozen in place. After Grandma passed away, Song Hui was the best person to me, or perhaps it was my cherishing and valuing him that magnified this goodness infinitely. But does my lack of love mean I deserve to be hurt by him, that I am unworthy of a pure and wholehearted love? After an unknown amount of time, Song Hui finally said softly to me, I'm sorry. The room was dimly lit, as he turned around and walked step by step towards the door. Once Song Hui's figure completely disappeared, Chen Jiao looked at me, smiling triumphantly, her beautiful face full of arrogance. Do you understand now? You will never win against me. I looked at her speechlessly, suddenly doubting whether she was really Song Hui's college classmate. In other words, has she really been to college? Before I could ask, a deep voice came from behind. If you've been pregnant for a month, for the sake of the child's future, I suggest you go to the hospital for a CT or MRI checkup as soon as possible. Chen Jiao frowned. What do you mean? Shen Jinyan spoke slowly. When there are functional disorders in the brain, only by doing an examination and clarifying the nature of the lesions can we determine if there is a genetic risk. I was taken aback and couldn't help but chuckle. Chen Jiao also reacted. Hey. Are you saying I'm crazy? Shen Jinyan did not deny it. Although it's impossible to recover, you need to actively seek treatment. Chen Jiao stormed off in anger. As she left, she cursed, resembling a petulant child who couldn't win an argument with someone else's family. I laughed heartily and took a long time to calm down. I turned around and found that Shen Jinyan had been watching me. Seeing me look over, Shen Jinyan appeared calm. Take a good rest. I have completed the task that Xiao Xiao assigned, and it's time for me to go back. I walked to the balcony, watched his car drive out of sight, and slowly exhaled. As soon as I returned to the room, I received a call from Xiao Xiao. Chen Jiao is pregnant. I was taken aback for a moment, recounted what had just happened to her, and couldn't help but praise Shen Jinyan's skills in retorting. However, Xiao Xiao sensed something was off. Hey. My brother went to your house. Didn't he say he had to go back to the company for something? 13. After that day, I moved in temporarily with Xiao Xiao, planning to find a place and move out again. I'll go back to retrieve the things left at Song Huai's place after a while. Shen Jinyan is going abroad for business negotiations, and will not be back for at least a month. That's why I didn't refuse Xiao Xiao's kindness. These days, my parents have called me several times, but I haven't answered. Song Huai also didn't come to disturb me. Xiao Xiao said that Chen Jiao has already moved into Song Huai's mother's house, taking care of her nicely, but no matter how much his mother persuades him, Song Huai hasn't gone back even once. However, none of this is related to me anymore. That day, to celebrate finding a place to live, Xiao Xiao and I decided to try ice skating. When we arrived at the ice rink, there weren't many people, probably because it was still early. So it was a good time to learn how to skate. Xiao Xiao seemed brave on the surface, but as soon as she entered the rink, she tightly held onto the railing and wouldn't let go, her lips trembling. No, I'm still afraid of falling. You go ahead, and when I'm mentally prepared, I'll definitely come find you. I had no choice, but to feel my way along the railing, moving forward step by step. Actually, my balance isn't very good, so I can't skate. The last time I was here was the last time. About half an hour later, I let go of the railing and slowly stood up, when someone suddenly skated past me at high speed. I was caught off guard and stumbled, about to fall. Be careful. A familiar deep voice came from beside me, and a hand rested on my waist, steadying me. I was taken aback when I met those pitch-black eyes. I didn't expect it to be Shen Jinyan. He must have just gotten off the plane, wearing a black trench coat that made him look tall and straight. I received a message from Xiao Xiao as soon as I got off the plane, saying you all went skating, so I came to pick you up. Shen Jinyan explained the reason for his sudden appearance. You still can't skate, can you? I casually responded with a HM, and immediately realized what I had said, now. Shen Jinyan, however, said no more and released my waist. Seeing me immediately lose my sense of security, and hug the railing again, Shen Jinyan fell silent for a few seconds, before letting out a low laugh. After laughing enough, he leisurely took off his coat and draped it over the railing, lightly tapping it with his fingertips. Shall I teach you? His voice was not as cold as usual, it had a relaxed tone. I felt my cheeks heat up from his laughter, a strange sense of competitiveness arose, and I did not refuse, saying generously. Then I'll leave it to you. If it weren't for this ice skating, I really wouldn't have known that Shen Jinyan had such good patience. He slowed down his movements and patiently explained to me how to skate and what methods to use. Except for that one time I accidentally fell on him, his body tensed for a moment. At other times, he appeared to be very at ease. After skating for a while, I realized that I was falling less and less. Excitedly tilting her head, I think I might. Shen Jinyan looked at me intently, his voice filled with laughter. You have graduated. Those eyes were bright and deep, like a pool of calm and clear water. Usually, he would look at people with indifference, but at this moment, there was an added hint of something else. I couldn't help but be slightly taken aback. After leaving the skating rink, Xiao Xiao was suddenly called to the company to revise a proposal. So now there were only Shen Jinyan and me in the car. I thought he would say something to me, but he said nothing and focused on driving. Just as I began to doubt whether I was overthinking things, Shen Jinyan stopped the car. Actually, I regret it quite a bit. I was slightly taken aback. At that time, Xiao Xiao called me many times, saying that you couldn't get a taxi and asked me to pick you up, but I missed the call because I was busy with a project. Then, Xiao Xiao called Song Huai. Shen Jinyan turned his head and looked at me. Actually, the first time I saw you was at this ice skating rink today. 3 years ago, I did come here once. My dad brought my 6-year-old sister to skate and took me along as well. At that time, it seemed you came with your family. Your dad was teaching your sister to skate, and you quietly held onto the railing, watching from the side. Later, you tried to let go of the railing and skate by yourself. But you couldn't get the hang of it, so you had to ask your dad for help. It seemed he was busy at that time, facing away from you while on the phone. I clenched my palms, and that distant memory gradually became clear in my mind as he recounted it. Then your sister was suddenly bumped by someone, and you instinctively skated over to act as a human cushion for her. Shinjinian paused for a moment, his voice suddenly becoming a bit heavy. As a result, your dad thought you caused your sister to fall and scolded you harshly, taking your sister away while leaving you here all alone. Shinjinian glanced at me and let out a light sigh. I thought you would cry in grievance, but you were very calm, as if you were used to it. That afternoon, you practiced skating silently by yourself, falling many times, yet you said nothing. Until one time you fell hard, and tears of physiology welled up in the corners of your eyes. You just blankly touched your face and then smiled gently. At that moment, I realized that you weren't not feeling grievance, nor did you not want to cry, you just couldn't cry. You were trying every way to make yourself cry, you were saving yourself. Shinjinian looked at me steadily and said softly. That was the first time I felt heartache for a stranger girl. I was stunned, and after a long time, I said, when I got back, my dad apologized to me, saying that when he was returning the skates, someone told him that it wasn't me who pushed my sister. Later, to make up for it, he bought me a very expensive pair of skates. But I never skated again. Suddenly realizing something, before I could ask, Shinjinian answered, that person was me, I was the one who told your dad. My heart skipped a beat. Shinjinian looked at me, after that missed opportunity, when we met again, you were already with Song Hui. After getting off the car, I hadn't regained my composure and almost tripped over a stone again. Shinjinian has naturally, almost habitually, placed his hand on my waist, his tone gentle, watch the road. I didn't watch the road, I was looking at him. As I opened my mouth to say something, a familiar voice came from behind, Shisha. 14. Song Hui stood under the tree, his face appearing somewhat blurred in the cold moonlight, making it hard to see his expression. When he got closer, I noticed that he had lost a lot of weight over the past month, and his eyes showed signs of fatigue. As soon as I spoke, my tone was laced with sarcasm. Why are you here instead of taking care of your family member? It seemed that Song Hui didn't hear my words. His gaze lingered between me and Shinjinian, his voice obscured to the extreme. You're so close to him, how far have you two gone? The slightly questioning tone made me think for a moment that I had misheard. Song Hui, I need to tell you that we no longer have any relationship. Song Hui was taken aback, his expression a bit unnatural. I'm sorry. I don't want to say more to him, so I turned and walked inside. Chen Jiao is not pregnant. With one sentence from Song Hui, I successfully stopped in my tracks. I tilted my head to look at him. What did you say? Song Hui looked at me, his Adam's apple bobbing. That pregnancy test result is not hers. She has a friend of a similar age, also named Chen Jiao, who was pregnant some time ago. Chen Jiao stole her pregnancy test result. I was momentarily stunned. I instinctively looked at Shinjinian, and he happened to be looking at me as well. We understood a sentence from each other's eyes. Chen Jiao might really be mentally ill. Yesterday, I had a big fight with Chen Jiao. She said everything, including that night when I got drunk. The next day, I couldn't remember anything, but actually, nothing happened between us in the end. Before Song Hui could finish speaking, Shinjinian let out a calm and indifferent laugh, saying, if it hasn't reached the final step, it doesn't count as having done anything. The butcher kills the pig, removes the hair, cleans it, and in the end, if he doesn't eat the pork, does that mean he hasn't done anything to the pig? As the conversation progressed, Song Hui's expression grew increasingly grim, and Shinjinian explained, it's just a metaphor. After a long silence, Song Hui turned his gaze towards me. Shisha. He called my name. Is it true that no matter what I say or do, you will never forgive me? I answered without hesitation, yes. Song Hui suddenly froze, murmuring, but Chen Jiao isn't pregnant, she left. Our issues have been resolved, right? You were so close to forgiving me back then. I was silent for a moment, then suddenly interrupted him. Do you remember that you have a broken watch in your drawer? Song Hui was taken aback and hesitantly nodded. You have always been reluctant to throw away that watch. You told me it was a gift from a relative, but it was actually given to you by Chen Jiao, wasn't it? I asked him softly. Do you know how I found out? Song Huai's lips trembled slightly, but he didn't say anything. On the day of your class reunion, Chen Jiao sent me a photo of you two from the past. Those are couple watches, right? Song Huai's expression froze. I smiled faintly. The one who has hurt me is not her, but you, who gave her one chance after another to hurt me. Song Huai's already reddened eyes turned completely red. Looking at his pale face, I said softly. I never want to see you again. Ending. After that day, Song Huai never appeared in front of me again. After moving, Xiao Xiao often came to my house to stay over, saying she was used to sleeping with me. Every night, Shen Jinyan would video call her, and after chatting for a bit, he would naturally throw the topic to me beside her. Over time, I actually have the illusion that I am chatting with Shen Jinyan every night. On weekends, the three of us often went hiking, but Xiao Xiao always complained about being tired and backed out at the last minute, so it was only Shen Jinyan and I who set off each time. I certainly knew that Xiao Xiao was creating opportunities for us. I also understood that I did not reject Shen Jinyan. But to truly accept him, I wasn't ready yet. Until Xiao Xiao couldn't stand it anymore and brought me Shen Jinyan's diary. Although it was called a diary, it didn't record much. Although it wasn't a diary, he wrote in it every day. To be precise, it was from the time we met again, after he learned that he didn't come to pick us up because of a project, that he wrote this sentence on paper every day. Won the project, lost the wife. In just 8 short characters, the words pierced through the paper, each one dripping with blood. I was stunned. It wasn't until Shen Jinyan came in, slightly flustered, and took the notebook from my hands that I regained my senses. He covered his lips and coughed lightly, trying to appear nonchalant, but his ears were as red as blood, just writing for fun. I was originally a bundle of confusion, but seeing him like this made me unable to help but laugh. It was as if the clouds had been peeled away, and all the tangled obsessions dissipated. I felt an extreme lack of security inside, hoping for a clean and wholehearted love. Isn't this person right in front of me now? Thinking of this, I took a deep breath and gestured for Shen Jinyan to give me the diary. Although Shen Jinyan was a bit puzzled, he still obediently complied. I leaned slightly forward, opened the diary, then took a pen from the pen holder and seriously crossed out the first 6 words. Standing up, I made eye contact with Shen Jinyan and pointed at the remaining 2 words. Read them. Shen Jinyan was taken aback, smiled, and said, wife. I blushed slightly and softly replied, The end.